Welcome everyone to the Township Council Workshop Meeting, May 6, 2024. This meeting is now called to order. Mayor Damiano, lead us in the flag salute, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please read the statement of public notice.
Take notice that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with NJSA 10:4-8 and NJSA 10:4-10 as follows. A notice of the meeting was prominently posted on a bulletin board at the municipal building located at 225 Main Street, Little Falls, New Jersey on January 4th, 2024. A copy of the notice was sent to the North Jersey Herald and News and the Record on the same date. Additionally, a copy of the notice was filed in the office of the Township Clerk on said date. A link and a telephone number to join the meeting virtually can be accessed on the Township website at www.lfnj.com. Electronic provisions have been established for the public to participate during the public comment portion of the meeting.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, at this time, please call the roll.
Councilmember Patel?
Present.
Councilmember Murphy?
Present.
Councilmember Hablitz,
Present.
Councilmember Vanchery?
Present.
Council President Scoba.
President. Mayor Damiano, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. This evening, before we get into the meeting agenda and agenda items, there are two proclamations that I would like to read this evening. The first is a proclamation in support of Mental Health Awareness Month. And it reads, whereas mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being, which can affect how we think, feel, and act. And whereas 1 in 5 adults experiences mental health problems in any given year, and such problems can contribute to onset of mental illness. And whereas 1 in 25 individuals live with mental illness, such as major depression, bipolar disorder, or schizophrenia. And whereas approximately 1/2 of chronic mental illness begins by the age of 14 and 3/4 by age 24. Whereas long delays, sometimes decades long, can occur between the time symptoms first appear and when individuals get help. And whereas early identification and treatment can make a profound difference in successful management of mental illness and recovery. And whereas it is important to maintain mental health and learn the symptoms of mental illness to get help when it is needed. And whereas every citizen and community can make a difference in helping end the silence and stigma that for too long has surrounded mental illness and discouraged people from getting help. And whereas public education and civic activities can encourage mental health and help improve the lives of individuals and families affected by mental illness. Now therefore be it resolved that I, James Belford Damiano, Mayor of the Township of Little Falls, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2024 as Mental Health Awareness Month in the Township of Little Falls to increase public understanding of the importance of mental health and to promote identification and treatment of mental illness. And the second proclamation this evening, Council President, is a proclamation in support of Lyme Disease Awareness Month. And it reads, whereas May is a time to help bring awareness to Lyme disease and tick-borne diseases. And whereas Lyme disease is a bacterial infection brought on mostly by an infected deer tick with symptoms that may include headache, fatigue, skin rashes, and fever. And whereas the Center for Disease Control and Prevention estimates that 476,000 people are diagnosed with the disease in the U.S. each year. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Mayor James Belford Damiano, on behalf of the Little Falls Township Council, do hereby proclaim May 2024 as Lyme Disease Awareness Month in the Township of Little Falls. And then is a good time for the PSA with the weather warming up to make sure that when you come inside from being outside for extended periods, and your children as well, do a check to make sure they have no ticks on you especially before getting into bed for the night. Council President, that's all that I have as far as proclamations, and now on to the appointments for the library board. So if I may, Council President, I am asking for the appointments of Ann Kawadi, Nancy Friedrich, and Tom Kasmark to the Little Falls Library Board for a 5-year term, which would expire May 31st, 2029. And that is with the advice and consent of the council. And for the council's consideration, these are 3 members who have been on our library board. These are reappointments to the board, and the library has been heading in an absolutely brilliant direction over these past handful of years with these current board members. And I would ask that the council reappoint these individuals to the library board.
Can I have a motion to approve the mayor's appointments at this time?
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Hablitz,
Second.
second by Councilman Vanchery. This is a roll call to approve Nancy Friedrich, Ann Quaddy, and Tom Kazmark to a 5-year term. Please call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Patel?
Yes.
Councilmember Murphy?
Yes.
Councilmember Havlet?
Yes.
Councilmember Vanchery?
Yes.
Council President Scoba.
Yes, I see that there's 2 trustees from the library board in the council chambers. If they'd like to speak at this time, you're welcome to. If not, we'll continue. Mr. Di Maria, the floor is yours.
All right, and if you just give me a brief second, I'm gonna figure out how to share this iPad up there right now.
Stand over here, a little formal.
Mr. Di Maria, just tell the people that are listening and those in council who you are and what you do for the township.
All right, so my name is James DeMaria. I'm the construction official who also serves as the floodplain administrator for the township of Little Falls. We were notified by NJDEP about 2 years ago that we're required to adopt a change in our current flood damage prevention ordinance. The flood damage prevention ordinance within the township has been in place for several years. But due to all the events and insurance losses, they are making it a little more difficult and trying to be a little more safer with how they treat houses that are being renovated and damaged after events. So since there are some substantial changes that the council may get phone calls on in the future, we thought it would be best to just take some key points out of this model ordinance that's been changed to give you guys a better understanding of where it's coming from and how it works. Because you'll see, it's a little intense. Okay, so a few things that's built into this little presentation is we're gonna go over what is flood damage prevention, the requirements for the adoption, the properties affected, a few key definitions that are changes in this proposed ordinance, and the substantial damages to give you guys, the large, picture. So the purpose of flood damage prevention ordinance is to promote the public health, safety, and general welfare, and to minimize public and private losses due to flood condition. These regulations, in conjunction with the Uniform Construction Code, provide minimum requirements for the development located in flood hazard areas, including the subdivision of land and other developments, site improvements and installation of utilities, placements and replacements of manufactured homes, placement of recreational vehicles, new construction, and alteration, repairs, reconstruction, rehabilitation, or additions of existing buildings and structures. Substantial improvements of existing buildings and structures, including repair of substantial damage and installation of tanks, temporary structures and temporary or permanent storage, utility, and miscellaneous group U buildings and structures, and certain building work exempt from permit under the Uniform Construction Code and the building and development activities. Now, there's a lot involved in that, but the most key important item here is what's highlighted. And that's certain building work exempt from permit under the Uniform Construction Code. Currently, we have a development permit in place here in town, but it takes a lot to be triggered. You would have to be doing an addition to your property or experience significant damage during a flooding event. So what happened was the state of New Jersey, through the Uniform Construction Code, amended the requirements for a permit when it comes to ordinary maintenance. Ordinary maintenance is the direct replacement of your kitchen, your bathroom, replacing your roof, replacing your siding. all these items, could be done without no permit from the building department. And you just go ahead and do what you have to do. House flippers could come in, pretty much redo a whole house and not even be required to pull a permit. So when the state changed this mandate, it kind of took the DEP out of the picture here. So you could do a lot of work, and that's a lot of money too. You figure, roofing, siding, some improvements in your house, you could really tally up some money. And then the property gets, damaged and a claim is put, and it's pretty significant. So you'll see as we go on how significant this will be. So who is required to adopt this? NJDP has required the counties below to adopt by November 2022. So they start off pretty much down south with Union County, Gloucester County, and Somerset County. And in July 2023, Passaic County, Essex County, and Camden County were supposed to have adopted this model ordinance already. Per the NJDEP, 220 municipalities have adopted this ordinance that is going to be put in front of you in the near future. So we say, what happens if we refuse to adopt? The Township of Little Falls will be severely impacted if this ordinance is not adopted by October of 2024. That's when our CRS, which is our community rating system, comes up for our 3-year audit. It's pretty significant. This is what affords a lot of our residents who have flood insurance a 25% discount on their policies. So if we were not to do this and follow the rules that the NFIP and FEMA want us to abide by, we could jeopardize our Class 5 CRS rating, and the township could be suspended from the NFIP, which means flood insurance policies will not be available, and any policy that's currently purchased would be voided. So who is affected? The Township of Little Falls obviously is no stranger to flooding events, and we do have quite a substantial area that is located within the special flood hazard area. So even if you own your property outright and you don't have flood insurance, you still have to abide by this, because the next person purchasing your property, might not be as fortunate to own their property outright. So these are some areas in town. We have the Jackson Park section, which is Ryle, Harrison, Jackson, Madison, that backs up to the DPW yard. We have the Hobson Ave section, which also has this Cedar Grove Road section, within that area. Francisco and Cedar Grove Road, these are properties along the Peckman River. We're fortunate enough to have 2 bodies of water that are subject to flooding. We also have the Signac area and Woodcliff area that experiences the Passaic River flooding. So if you were to take all those properties, we do have a substantial amount of houses that are going to have to abide by these new requirements, estimated well over 300 properties. So pretty significant, it's a lot of people. So some more key definitions and changes. This is the ordinary building maintenance and minor work that I talked about. This improvement is defined as ordinary building maintenance and minor work projects by the Uniform Construction Code, including non-structural replacement in kind of windows, doors, cabinets, plumbing fixtures, decks, walls, partitions, new flooring, material, roofing, etc. They shall be evaluated by the floodplain administrator through the floodplain development permit to ensure compliance with the substantial damage and substantial improvement section of 86.26 of this ordinance. So pretty much what this is saying, that although there is not a UCC permit required to do work, anybody's house that is located in a special flood hazard area, they are going to have to obtain a floodplain development permit, which is going to track how much money is spent in that improvement. There's going to be a major outreach necessary to inform these people that, these property owners that live in these areas, that they're gonna have to, pull this permit. And, it could be, a house over here that's located in a special flood hazard area, and across the street may not be. And, you'll have, I can do a roof with, no permit, but my neighbor is subjected to, being required to pull this flood damage prevention or this floodplain development permit. So we've heard the word substantial improvement. Substantial improvement is any reconstruction, rehabilitation, addition, or other improvement of structure taking place over a 10-year period, the cumulative cost of which equals or exceeds 50% of the market value of the structure before the start of construction. So pretty much what this is saying, and it's very similar to the substantial damage part on the next slide, is if you exceed 50% of the improved value of the structure only, land is out of it, you would be required to elevate your house. So we know how pricing is today. So it wouldn't take much to get to that amount to put you over that 50%, which then becomes a major burden on the property owner to come up with the funds, to comply. And that's, where we're getting into the impacts of this, of the changes of this ordinance. One beneficial thing that they did in this part of this ordinance is when we discussed the market value. Previously, they would only allow us to go by how much was the house was assessed at per the township tax rate. Usually that assessment is a little lower than if you were to get a third-party assessment. So I would have no choice but to go straight across the board, look at the tax record. If the improved value said that the improved value of the structure is 100,000, well, if the work exceeds 50,000 or the property was damaged more than 50,000, they would be required to elevate. But they now allow a third-party appraisal, which will bring up the value to today's standards of the current market rates. So that house that might be on our rolls as 100,000, when appraised by a third party, maybe 150 or 200,000, which gives a little more of a buffer when things like this happen. The floodplain development permit that's required, and this is just it's a little redundant of what I just spoke about, but pretty much anybody in the special flood hazard area will be required to pull this permit whenever they're doing any type of work. If they do it without the permit, then we got to stop work order, and a violation for doing such. And we will be required to enforce this because every year they will come in and they, when they do our insurance audit, they will want to see proof that we are enforcing, our ordinance in good faith. So this is an example of how fast this could add up. So if somebody had come in and filled out a permit for a new roof that cost $20,000, we would look at the market value of the structure that we just spoke about. Say it's $140,000, which means the cost of work can't exceed $70,000. So here they look like they're okay because they're only spending $20,000. But if we do the look back as we're required back to 2010, back to 2014, because it's within a 10-year period, they already spent $60,000 on other items. They would then be forced to elevate their property and not be able to continue with the work. I do have some good news regarding this, and I spoke with the mayor earlier today. We are able to take that 10-year look back and reduce it down to 3 years. So it's a quicker reset. So God forbid somebody did have a major expense or a major flooding event, maybe they could span it out where, God forbid they don't have the money, they could do that. We would lose some points in our CRS program But I think I think we could pick up the points elsewhere and, decrease the burden on some of these, property owners. So, I'm sure the council would be, in agreement, to that. Not saying you can't, exceed that amount in 3 years, we experienced a flooding event and, somebody had just done a major repair on their house, it could easily exceed that, but it's not as heavy. So, what changed? So no work of any kind may start in the NJ flood hazard area or FEMA special flood hazard area until all permits, including but not limited to a floodplain development permit, are issued. Work on properties will now be tracked in cumulative total value of work within a 10-year, which will now be switched to a 3-year period, will govern if the property needs to be elevated. The township will be required to issue violations and stop work orders for properties operating without approval. Another part of this, and it's going to be probably one of the most difficult part because emotions run high, is making repairs after flooding. We used to have the ability to say, people got water in and they want to get back to their properties. A lot of the work fell under ordinary maintenance. So we were able just to say, hey, look, pull the sheetrock, replace the sheetrock, move back in, no questions asked. Now all that stops because we have to document the cost to make sure it's not exceeding. So, when large neighborhoods get affected, there's going to be a major task of the building department to get these permits out and track everything down and try to get these people back in their houses. But if they do exceed that 50%, that's where we have to say, so you can't proceed until you comply with the ordinance. That's all. Any questions?
If I may just shed some additional clarity and light on this for the council members who may not be as familiar as, unfortunately, I have become lately. I know you talked about homeowners would eventually need to elevate their homes in the event they exceeded 50%. To be very clear, the homeowner has to pay for themselves
Yes.
the elevation of their home. It is not something that there are programs out there readily available that once you exceed it, you need to, that you can go and get funding for. You need to elevate it yourself. And what does a private home elevation cost nowadays? And on an average home in Little Falls, that would
Between relocation, permits, design, utility disconnect, sometimes up around $200,000. It's very hard to get companies to come up north to do this because there's a lot of mobilization. There's a lot of material that has to be bought up to just lift the house alone. So it does become very difficult. And that's the scary part of this. We're going to be holding our residents to this, strict ordinance. And I just hope it's easy for them to.
So again, a huge thank you for all of your work in getting us to become a Class 5 here in Little Falls, probably one of the very few non-coastal towns that have, are we the only non-coastal town that's?
Pequannock is, but there's not too many east of the Mississippi.
Yeah, right,
Non-title.
Right. We are one of the very few non-title Class 5s, not only in New Jersey and, entirely east of the Mississippi, which gives our residents a 25% reduction on what their flood insurance costs are. Now, you may think, well, should we do away with this and deal with the burden of not having any rating anymore and not allowing our residents to have 25% reduction? As you heard James said, there's about 300 homes in Little Falls that are paying for flood insurance. Some of them paying $4,000 or plus, some up to $10,000 a year in flood insurance. Even on the lowball number of $4,000 a year in flood insurance at 300 homes, we are saving Little Falls taxpayers $300,000, probably close to $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 in total flood insurance costs by remaining in this program. So to not adopt this ordinance, in my opinion, is unfortunately not something we can do because it will cost Little Falls taxpayers or Little Falls residents hundreds of thousands of more dollars in insurance. Because one of my considerations early on was, let's just not adopt it. Unfortunately, it will cost Little Falls residents hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I say that because we are, in my opinion, being handcuffed by these regulations. And I know one of the considerations, and early on, we had discussed a 10-year look-back period. In learning now that there's a 3-year look-back period, while we do lose 40 points on our CRS rating, we're gonna have to work hard to gain those 40 points somewhere else. I know we were looking to achieve as low as a class 4, as high as a class 4 rating, which the numbers are backwards, but a class 4 rating is better than a class 5 rating. Even if we were able to sustain and maintain our class 5 rating for our residents by achieving more points elsewhere, this 3-year look back versus the 10-year look back is going to give our residents the potential to make basic improvements to their home that they may need, like a new roof, like new siding, all of those things. It may allow them to do it without having to elevate their home, which I fear is going to drive many homeowners into foreclosure, frankly. Because what are they going to do when you realize you have to come up with $200,000 to elevate your home out of your own pocket? And if your home does not have $200,000 in equity in it to take out a HELOC to do that, or it's not financially feasible to pay even an additional HELOC of $200,000 a year more on your home, these homeowners are going to let their homes go. And we are going to end up with wide sections of town that these homeowners let their homes go to banks. And then the question becomes, nobody can then come and buy that and flip it, because that same 10-year or now hopefully 3-year window applies. And if the repairs that you need exceed that 50% threshold, you then have to also, or that home flipper would have to elevate that home for an additional $200,000, which is going to make that home a frankly non-profitable home for them. It's going to sit there vacant. And eventually, I believe the municipality would have to take action on these homes at our cost to demolish these homes that banks own, that nobody has any interest in anymore. And we're going to end up with vast sections of town. And this is not just, this is in the middle of Reiner's Road. This is Hobson Ave. This is the entire Jackson Park. This is the entire Parkway section of town, the entire Woodcliff section of town, Francisco Ave. All of these homes fall into this category. And to think to replace your roof, it's essentially counting against you. To make a repair, to do a new kitchen, to do an upgrade to your home, it's counting against the amount of dollars that you can spend before the state of New Jersey says you need to elevate your home at a cost of $200,000 out of your own pocket. Oh, and good luck, you're going to be living out of a hotel for 3 months during that period too. It is a terrible thing that we are being forced to consider, but because we have this class 5 rating, because we are saving residents hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of dollars every single year, unfortunately, it's something that we need to pass before we lose this additional coverage for our residents, or I should say this reduced coverage for our residents. If we had no rating in CRS, there would be zero incentive, I'm sure some, but a lot less incentive to put through this ordinance to put our residents in a position where they may have to elevate their homes. But because of the tremendous savings that they receive through the CRS rating that we have, I believe we are somewhat handcuffed into having to move forward with this. I've tried to think of every single loophole, and apparently they did too when they drafted this, because they have come up with a defense or an answer that doesn't get us further as you try to play through every potential loophole that may exist to avoid having to do this. And my heart honestly breaks for people who just want to improve their home, who want to redo their kitchen, who want to change their roof because it's leaking. It may cost you $300,000 to or $250,000 to redo your roof that would have cost a fraction of that, had you not had to pass this ordinance. So unfortunately, I think the service that we're providing our residents in the reduction outweighs many of these residents having to, in potentially short time, abandon their homes and the equity that was in them. So, like I said, this is not something that I'm thrilled about. This is not an ordinance that I am looking forward to hearing yes votes on, but it is unfortunately an ordinance that I believe we need to pass to continue to afford our residents hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in savings every single year on their insurance so that they can remain insured. And in fact, I think one of the loopholes that I tried to come up with would have resulted in them having no ability to have insurance in the future. Was that even one of the?
Get suspended from the NFIP, which means you don't get insurance. All policies get suspended.
Right, so our residents' home policies, their entire policy would be terminated or suspended. And God forbid there was flood damage caused to their home, 100% of repairs would have to come out of their pockets. So this is not something that we can do. We just can't. And unfortunately, I need to sit here and encourage the council. And I think everybody understands the significance of it. So I don't mean it like that, but encourage the council to pass this so that we continue to have coverage for our residents here in Little Falls.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. DiMaria, so if a resident who is in this flood zone, if their assessed value of the home is $250,000 and on their 3-year look back, you determined that they spent $30,000 over the last flood to fix up their home, they're left with $220,000. And 50%, half of that, 50% of that's 110,000. Right. Is 110,000. 110,000 they could spend before it triggers any situation. Now, this doesn't come off the books. This stays with the homeowner for perpetuity. Is that correct? Or does it come off the
No,
books?
that's why I'm encouraging a 3-year look back
Right.
period rather than what was previously discussed as a 10-year look back. Because if you made improvements to your home 5 years ago, that will not count towards the amount of money that you can spend improving or repairing your home. So the shorter look back window will cost us some points in our CRS rating. Again, I think we can make those up in other areas of the rating system. And I think to allow our homeowners and our residents in town the ability to make improvements without it essentially being charged against them for too long, shortening the look back period is critical to a 3-year look back, because the 40 points that we lose between a 3-year look back versus a 5-year look back is the exact same loss of points. So shortening the look back period is going to assist our residents in not having prior repairs made years past count against them.
So getting back, thank you, Mayor. Getting back to that example, so the homeowner now has $110,000 and they go out and they have to spend, unfortunately, another flood comes and they have to spend monies. And after 3 years, it gets reset, is what we're saying.
It's the 3-year look back.
Right.
For instance, like what occurred, at Safe River,
Mhm.
just recently, you had, just before Christmas and then shortly into January. That's 2 items that go against that amount. And if they did, they moved in a year ago and did a substantial amount of work and it was documented, that would all be, cumulative. So right now, if this was in place, we would be looking at from today, pretty much back to 2021 on, anything that may have occurred. We just don't know what's going to happen.
And this affects those that have a mortgage and those that do not. Is that correct? Okay. And as far as there's 2 other questions, some other questions I have for homeowners in this zone, that if they want to put up vinyl siding, they want to do a kitchen, they want to do some basic, no, I wouldn't say basic, but ordinary maintenance, they have to go through a permit process, unlike other homeowners that don't live in that district.
Correct. There's no, I'll do the work and there's no labor. They have a guideline set up where there's, fair share labor costs for, what it costs, to do that. So you can't even, regulate and bend the numbers and make it look like, oh no, it's one material, I'm doing all the work. They won't accept that.
Right.
They want.
So I decide as a homeowner to go to Home Depot, get my own cabinets, and I call up a friend of mine to help me put the cabinets in. Doesn't matter. I'm going to be assessed a certain amount, and that amount goes against the valuation. It's on the books now for 3 years. So if that whole job, I bought the cabinets for $5,000, and although I did my own work, it doesn't matter. They're still going to calculate some work into that formula. Whatever, $2,000, there's a formula that they're going to come up with. So $6,000 is going to go against me as a homeowner in that home that I just now spent $6,000. And now it starts to tick off and I have to wait, 3 years. And getting back to if we do occur another flood, unlike, as you mentioned in your comments, residents have to wait longer I would imagine, to go through the process to fix up their home. As before that they were allowed to go in, as you said, rip out sheetrock, do what you need to do. We'd have the containers on site. They would be dumping in and doing everything they need to do so that the residents could get back into their home on a quicker basis.
Motion for our to be raised and when they reach out to you guys to say that's why it's important, we all felt that it was important, well versed in this, so how to handle,
So, Council President, this was something that I was considering sending out an informational packet to all the homes that will be impacted, as well as hosting a town hall meeting for residents to be informed of. This is not a happy-go-lucky town hall that we'll be having. This is really just bad news, but unfortunately something that we are being forced to address.
Right. So, I'm sorry, let me just finish this. So as a resident, I really wouldn't know because no one's really watching our meeting. I see, or are they? Maybe we have 3, 4 people on. They really wouldn't know. So if I was to go out and start to fix up my home, I would then find out this plan. And it's kind of late. I already ordered materials. I already ordered stuff. I got people on site. And now I'm like, oh, I'm going to be assessed $48,000 because I want to do my bathroom. I want to do my bathroom and some other stuff. So, yeah. Okay. Are there questions from the dais concerning this important topic? Councilman Vanchery.
Thanks, Council President. Well, someone lives on Hobson Ave. This is fun news. Thank you for the state for doing this. Ironically, too, last week, most of us that are in these zones got a letter from the New Jersey Office of Emergency Management where they mentioned the fact that you've been affected by floods and they're doing a brief survey to get a sense of what you would do if you were presented these options. And ironically, it was elevation, buyout, and then just kind of fixing the walls around your home and everything else. So they are kind of doing some digging, and it is frustrating, especially too, because we had a flood less than 3 years ago, the last time we had it on September 1st. And I know I spent $80,000 to fix my house. So right away, if there is another flood in that 3-year, I'm screwed. So
and how long
yes,
you were,
yeah. And it was a 3-month process to get things done. And it's unfortunate. And Mayor, I think it's a great idea to have a town hall. I would even put this presentation on the website. And when you are sending out your next tax update or just another communications, I think we really need to make sure people understand, because again, there's 3 people watching this meeting right now. It's not really beneficial to everyone. And what's going to happen is there's going to be an ordinance that's passed and someone's going to come to Mr. DiMaria not too happy about what they have to do. So we need to make sure we tell them.
And Councilman, to your point, you just mentioned 2021, right?
Yeah.
The 3-year look back would essentially expire for you September of 21.
Right.
Where if there were a 10-year look back,
Mhm.
of course, any other improvements that you would have made to your home 7 years even prior to that would count towards it. That's why shortening the duration to
Absolutely.
a 3-year period, 3-year look back is critical to help our homeowners here in town. The shortest that we could possibly go is more beneficial to our residents.
Definitely, because of the time frame, what's happened. Because even if you look back, the last one was 2018. So that's sort of wiped off the book, but then 2021.
Right.
Absolutely.
It could easily happen, it gives you a little hope, but you
Yeah.
just never know.
And what I'm wondering too is with this presentation, obviously you can send it online, but maybe to taking a few of those slides, printing them out, and maybe mounting them on some easels here at Town Hall, maybe in the Civic Center, maybe in the library, so people see this and are aware of the areas that are going to be affected. Because again, they're not going to know, and you're going to get the brunt of it more than anyone, because you're going to have to enforce this ordinance basically. So
And
yeah.
that's why, like the mayor said, the public outreach is, it's gonna have to be substantial.
yeah, and I would even take advantage of upcoming events. You have the farmers market that's coming up. Might be worth having something set up there, and other events where we know a lot of people are going to come to, so that they're aware of what's going on. Because if you don't get them all to Town Hall, you have to get them at other areas.
And
Councilwoman Havelitz.
Thank you, Council President. So I just wanted some clarity, actually. So when we say our CRS rating, we wouldn't qualify for that anymore if we do not do this ordinance. So playing devil's advocate, if someone's flood insurance was $4,000, taking that 25% away would be about another $1,000 a year. about $100 a month, give or take.
Mhm.
But then that person would be able to still do anything they wanted. But you're also saying that even if that's what the route that we went, then we still have fear of losing our flood insurance as a town. So
Oh, yeah, it's not fear. It's the NFIP they will not insure you because that means you are not taking the precautions to have a flood safe neighborhood. So the CRS is the bonus. It's like the good driver on your, insurance. The township is doing good by public outreach, enforcing this to make it safer to, inform the residents. So that's where we get the 25%, which I think it equates to approximately $542,000 thereabout in savings for all the federally backed written flood insurance policy. So it is substantial, but the biggest thing is we don't adopt this, no one's gonna have flood insurance.
So knowing that, my suggestion at when we're giving out information is to really focus on the fact that they will lose their flood insurance. And the bonus is that we have the CRS rating and we will also lose the bonus. So the bigger picture to take away from this would be that you will lose your flood insurance. Okay, thank you.
Councilman Patel, do you have any input on this topic?
Well, I just, maybe a clarification. So essentially, it doesn't matter, right? Whether it's a necessary improvement or just like you want to add an addition to your
Sure.
kitchen, right?
Yeah.
So,
You're going to be accountable for anything you do nice to your house that falls under that floodplain development permit. So if you want to redo your bathroom, where typically you'd be able to do, like, say, I want to retile the wall, replace the toilet, replace the sink, redo my shower. You don't need a UCC permit. You could just go ahead and do that. You don't have to tell me I can't, violate you or anything. Now, you would be required at a minimum to pull this floodplain development permit where we're just pretty much tracking how much money are you spending on your property. You're not even getting an inspection. This is just pretty much, we have a receipt of what you did.
Kevin,
you
to your
get-
point,
oh.
if somebody had a leak in their roof, right? This is not I want to make an aesthetic improvement.
Right.
This is, I need to fix my house so it doesn't leak. That counts against you as well. So it is not just aesthetic improvements, it is any improvement.
so since they're tracking the monies that you're spending on your home, Right.
They want the township to track.
right?
Yep.
Since it's being tracked, is it reduced by money that you're reimbursed from the insurance? So it just doesn't matter.
Another.
The insurance doesn't want to give out the money anymore. That's the issue. The payouts are just,
Substantial.
substantial and, you can come in, not even tell the town, you could redo a house beautiful without permits and flip it for $700,000, and somebody comes in, buys it, and unfortunately you get hit, and the insurance company has to pay out now all that additional money because of the upgrades that were done. And, that's what's going on the radar. So as soon as they pass the ordinary maintenance, they started looking like, all right, how are we going to track this work? And they said, hey, you know what? We're going to include it in the floodplain development permit and this change in the ordinance. So it's.
Councilman Murphy?
I have two questions. So if a homeowner wants to make improvements to their home to sell it, and they use up 40% of the valuation, and they go to sell that to a new buyer, that new buyer, does that person take on the 40%, or does that automatically start new?
No, they take it on, and I assume, just like when everybody sells now, they file an Oprah request. That will be part of the Oprah request showing that, hey, look, they pulled the floodplain development permit and they already spent $90,000. And I'm not too sure, somebody might know better, but I believe there's some type of new notification that's also required now. Some type of disclosure statement now, about your house being in a flood hazard area. I'm not well versed on it, but I believe there is some type of, so, it'll start, coming to, people's attention more, and hopefully, the realtors and, the closing attorneys will, realize this too.
And secondly, just if we have a 3-year look back, and right now nobody's pulling permits for kitchen remodel or flooring, how do we know exactly what they spent in the past 3 years? Like, what's the valuation? How do we figure out what the last 3 years was?
Well, right now you wouldn't. So, unless they had, major damages, say in 2021 that required permit work, we would have that on record. So we would be able to utilize that. But for instance, a lot of majority of the properties that, experience flooding, where they just removed a little bit of sheetrock from those rooms, we really want to have a dollar base on that, maybe some HVAC equipment, which is still kind
Right.
of dollars, but, you'll really start seeing the impact of this probably, in 2020, 6, 27, once it, really takes off.
Right. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Di Maria, for your thorough report. We appreciate you coming in this evening and explaining to council and to the public. Have a motion to open the meeting to the public for general matters and agenda items.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Murphy, second by Councilman Vanchery. This is a voice vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Madam Clerk?
Anyone wishing to address the Township Council may do so through the council president. It is preferred if you give your name and address for the record. Comments are to be limited to 3 minutes. However, if appropriate, you may be granted additional time in the sole discretion of the council president. Members of the public who have joined the meeting virtually and desire to provide comment shall raise their virtual hand in the Zoom application. The meeting moderator will cue the members of the public that wish to provide comment, and the council president will recognize them in order. Members of the public who have joined the meeting by calling in must press *6 to mute and unmute themselves and *9 to raise their hand. Members of the public who have joined the meeting via the Zoom application must click the reactions icon and then the raise hand icon. Once the process is complete, we will return to the regular order of business.
The floor is now open. Mr. Kuchar, anyone in our chat? Seeing no one else come before us in the council chambers, can I have a motion to close the public comment?
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Patel, second by Councilwoman Havelitz. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? This motion carries. Mary Damiano, items 1, 2, and 3, please.
Thank you, Council President. The first item is a resolution to adjust a pilot account on a property. Unfortunately, there was an error in the original assessment of the property. As a result of the error in the assessment, it was overassessed. And upon review, I believe there was a dispute whether it was I think it was listed as a 3 instead of a 2-bedroom unit. It ultimately was a 2-bedroom unit and not a 3. Therefore, the assessment, it was overassessed. And as a result, instead of a tax refund, as we would typically see on a property like this, as a result of essentially an appeal, we are going to just do a pilot adjustment on the property. So that is what item number 1 is, and the first resolution is this evening. The second is a resolution releasing a performance bond, and as we do typically through when developers have larger developments that they are developing, they are required to post performance bonds. Once the work is complete and signed off by our engineers, the performance bonds can be released, and that is what item number 2 is this evening. And are there any questions on items number 1 or 2? I didn't ask after 1. Hearing none. Item number 3 is ordinance 1496, amending the hours of operation for cannabis businesses. Unfortunately, when the need to adopt ordinances early on in cannabis in New Jersey, there was very little guidance, but there was a deadline under which we had to adopt ordinances in order to not allow all class licenses to automatically be acceptable in a municipality. And in doing so, some of the towns that were earlier in the curve were Bergen County towns. And because Bergen County has a blue law, one of the towns that we mirrored our ordinance after was a Bergen County town that did not allow the sale of anything on Sunday, including cannabis. And as a result, in order to meet with more local standards, having businesses open on Sundays and not being restricted by the blue law, ordinance 1496 would allow the operation of cannabis business to operate Monday through Sunday, 7 days of the week.
Are there any questions on 3?
Just quick question on that, Mayor.
Councilman
So
Murphy?
I know this is just amending from Saturday to Sunday, which I don't see any issue with. Just when I was reading through it, I noticed that it was 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. I looked up some towns around this, and again, I know this was done in 21, but like Montclair, Patterson, Bloomfield, most of theirs open around, start around 8 or 9 a.m. My only concern would be like with Route 46 traffic, in that time period. Just wondered if that's something we could potentially take a look at, maybe pushing it back. I know most of these establishments don't open till 9 or 10 anyway, but just want to see if that's something we could check out.
That's correct. The resolution that I believe the planning board will likely be adopting at its next meeting, I believe the cannabis retailer was the hours of operation were, I believe, starting at 8 AM
Okay,
on days of the week. Typically, or oftentimes what I see is ordinances that allow for a wider range of things and then resolutions at planning board level, kind of narrowing or honing in on specific things, which I think is what we see here. I don't disagree, but I mean, this would give the other applicants an ability to ask for as early as 6 AM. But I believe the planning board resolution will curtail that to a later opening time.
gotcha.
Just to remark that provision in the ordinance covers all licenses, so you could have a grower.
Right.
or a Manufacturer that might start earlier, has nothing to do with the public.
So you can't typically go class five. You could specify
change it
class five?
specific to
Right.
workers, but The reason it's like that is because it covers all.
Gotcha. Yeah, and in manufacturing, I understand, right? That'd be 6 AM. I don't see why they should,
Right.
just a traffic issue on like 46 would be, potential. But that was it. Just wanted to see if something to look at. Thank you.
Have a motion to approve resolutions A through C,
So moved.
moved by Councilwoman Havelitz.
Second,
Second by Councilman Vanchery. This is a roll call to approve resolutions A through C. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Patel? Yes. Councilmember Murphy?
yes.
Councilmember Havlet?
Yes.
Councilmember Vanchery?
Yes.
Council President Scoba.
Yes. Have a motion to introduce ordinance 1496,
So moved.
moved by Councilman Murphy,
Second.
second by Councilwoman Havelitz. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Patel?
Yes.
Councilmember Murphy?
Yes.
Councilmember Havlet?
Yes.
Councilmember Vanchery?
Yes.
Council President Scoba.
Yes.
Council President, I'm
Yes.
sorry, I just have to read the introduction of the.
I'm sorry. I apologize. Let's backtrack. Please read the introduction for the record.
Introduction of ordinance number 1496, an ordinance entitled, an ordinance amending the code of the Township of Little Falls Administration of Government, Section 33 Cannabis, with a second reading and public hearing scheduled for May 20th, 2024.
That is my fault. I apologize. Sometimes we live with this agenda from like Thursday till Monday, and we kind of get these embedded in our head, but we forget that everyone joining us is the first time hearing it. So I do apologize, Madam Clerk. Thank you. Council reports. Let's start. Councilman Murphy, you want to lead us off?
Thank you, Council President. Just real quick, I know last meeting I brought up that June 19th, we were looking to do a presentation with the Domestic Violence Prevention Committee at Passaic Valley High School. There was an issue with that June 19th date. They had to move some testing to that day. So speaking with the superintendent, we're looking at a date of June 3rd or June 4th to do our presentation along with the prosecutor's office for the seniors on safe dating. So just for everybody to keep in mind, maybe June 3rd, June 4th, once we finalize those dates, but it will be one of those two. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilman Vanchery.
Thanks, Council President. I'll be brief too. This week, Mayor, I'm going to send out my usual to-do list for the upcoming parade and concert at the end of this month, for Memorial Day weekend. I'll put all the paperwork together in terms of what we'll need from a police, DPW, and fire and EMS standpoint. So I'll get that to you this week so you can review it and let us know if you have any questions on that.
Great.
That's it for me.
Councilwoman Havelitz.
Thank you, Council President. First, I would like to say congratulations to the appointments of our library board trustees, to Tom, Ann, and Nancy. I'm truly honored to serve with each of you as the council designee. I would especially like to thank Ann Kawadi for her role as the library board president for the past few years. Through her leadership and our wonderful library staff, the library has just grown leaps and bounds, and I'm really proud of everyone. So some library updates. Little Falls' own Billy Pickney will have a book reading and signing of his book, Passion Prevails, on May 14th at 6:30 p.m. He is just a great kid, grew up here in Little Falls, passionate about baseball, has worked with the Jackals, and he has a really great book out. So I hope that we will come and support him. Also, you can register for this Friday's Mommy's Dearest Mother's Day for a special screening of Mildred Pierce, which is going to be highlighted by her own grandson, Casey Lamonti. And also Pastabilities will be at the library again for pasta making. That is always very popular. Registration is required, and that will be Thursday, May the 16th at 6 p.m. The bike rodeo this Saturday took place. It was a great success. We had over 85 participants. The weather was beautiful, and it was a great day for safety and fun. Thank you to everyone who helped out for the day, our DPW, our police department. Avenues in Motion, our Friends of the Library, the Loose Wheel, Simpre Avante, and Kent Bicycles for their participation and their sponsoring. We had 4 great bike raffles. And also to Mainline Pizza for their delicious pizza donation. All of the participants finished their long ride around 5 blocks with a slice of pizza from Dominic. So really, thank you to Mainline. Also, thank you to Councilman Vanchery and Mayor Damiano for coming out and supporting. And then lastly, the farmers market starts in approximately 2 weeks on May 19th, and hope to see everyone there. That's all I have.
Councilwoman Patel.
Thank you, Council President. Just a few things. The Clifton Board of Health will be at the library on May 20th from 11 till 12:30, doing free blood pressure checks for anyone that needs to get their blood pressure checked. Just a reminder that the dental clinic is still open for children ages 5 through 18. Again, they provide exams, x-rays, cleanings, and fillings. And all you have to do is make an appointment by calling 973-470-2039. And again, that's free for Little Falls residents. And then finally, in celebration of Mental Health Awareness Month, we are going to be doing a flag raising on May 18th outside of Town Hall at 10 a.m. And the library, in connection with Clifton Health, are doing mindfulness classes at the library on May 18th from 10:30 to 11:30, which are individual sessions for parents and children. And then 11:30 to 12:30, the parents and children are put together. And for those of you that don't know about mindfulness, it's really just a mental state that one can achieve by focusing on the present moment, the present day, the present task. Practicing mindfulness has been shown to decrease feelings of anxiety and depression, improve attention and focus, improve memory and help. Essentially, individuals deal with their emotions. So it's a great class. We're really excited to have it open. There are 2 separate sessions, again, on May 18th and June 1st. And thank you, Councilman Vanchery, for helping me with all of that. That is all, Council President.
Thank you. May 31st is going to be the Seniors Advisory Spring Fling from 6 to 9 at the Civic Center. Those wishing to attend, please reach out to me. Numbers 973-256-0249. Non-residents will be $20 to attend that event. Music will be by John Morano on the accents. As the council heard me speak last time about the veterans, about getting a GPS system set up so that residents and non-residents can find their veteran, those that paid for their loved ones' veteran banners easily. I had a Thomas Metzler reach out to me, whose uncle is George Metzler, and asking me where the location of his uncle's banner was. So we're hoping to get this program up and running so that we don't have too much downtime. But in the interim, I did reach out to Mr. Controne, and he reached out to Ron Campbell. We found the location pretty quickly, and within a half hour, that location was given to the family, and they were thrilled to know it was on Shady Lane. But I just, in interim, I mentioned this veteran, I think at one of the meetings, but I need to mention him again because I was researching. He was one of 5 brothers who went into service. 2 went into the airborne and 3 went into the Navy. And unfortunately, George was killed when he was 17, when he enlisted less than a year. So I think it's highly important of this program, and I want to give a shout out to Councilwoman Habit who helped out putting a Facebook blurb out, and we did get kind of a rush of veteran families reaching out to the council, reaching out to the town for veteran banners. I think we have 5 now who want to get those banners up. And as I mentioned before, we're hoping to get a veteran to do a voiceover and speak about each veteran. So not only can you find them with your phone, but you'll be also to be able to access a biography of that veteran as well. And I do suggest that, Mr. Cadron, that we put these veterans, these hometown hero veterans on our website so people could see them. Have a motion to open the meeting to the public for agenda items. Moved by Councilman Vanchery,
Second.
second by Councilman Murphy. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Madam Clerk.
Anyone wishing to address the Township Council may do so through the Council President. It is preferred if you give your name and address for the record. Comments are to be limited to 3 minutes. However, if appropriate, you may be granted additional time in the sole discretion of the Council President. Members of the public who have joined the meeting virtually and desire to provide comment shall raise their virtual hand in the Zoom application. The meeting moderator will cue the members of the public that wish to provide comment, and the Council President will recognize them in order. Members of the public who have joined the meeting by calling in must press *6 to mute and unmute themselves and *9 to raise their hand. Members of the public who have joined the meeting via the Zoom application must click the reactions icon and then the raise hand icon. Once the process is complete, we will return to the regular order of business.
Thank you. The floor is now open. Mr. Kusia. Anyone like to come before us? Have a motion to close the public comment. Moved by Councilman Vanchery, second by Councilwoman Patel. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Have a motion to close this meeting.
So move.
So
Moved by Councilman Murphy, second by Councilwoman Hablitz. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? This meeting is now closed.